Welcome. I'm Sebastian Mahfood, and you're listening to WCAT Radio, the on-air wing of En Route Books and Media, bringing you the dulcet sounds of Catholic wisdom with our host, Bob Olson, who will now introduce today's show and speaker.
WCAT Radio presents Cry Oneness, a program with Joe Avalos to encourage people to share their experience with God, their miracles, their music, their poetry. Share your life. Now here's our host, Joe Avalos. Good to have you back, Joe.
Good to be back, Bob.
So where are we going tonight?
Well, I thought we'd start with a little bit on the power of meditation, how I started getting this poetry, and it brought me to a quiet place, and some of the techniques I use to get into a place where I feel in contact with God.
Mm-hmm.
And that everybody can do,
That's right.
So what I'd like to start with is something called the Yahweh meditation. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. Well, Yahweh was in the Jewish faith was a sacred word, and they believed that just saying the name of God was like blasphemy in ancient Hebrew. And and let me find this writing before I continue because it's important.
The program is called Cry Oneness. A program creating unity. And Joe,
So part of unity is the ability to come into contact with God.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the methods of doing that I learned from a Franciscan who teaches this, Richard Rohr, is something called the Yahweh prayer or the Yahweh meditation. And Yahweh was the ancient Hebrew word for God. And in the ancient days, they didn't even believe that the word should be said. So Yahweh, when you inhale, the sound that you make is Yah. And when you exhale, the sound that you make is Way. So Yahweh has no consonants in it. So Yahweh is actually the silent word for breath. So when you're inhaling, you're constantly saying Yah. And when you're exhaling, you're constantly saying Way. And Richard Rohr puts it this way: the first sound we ever made when we were born, we were speaking God's name. And the last sound we make before we pass, we are saying God's name. And every breath in between, we are actually calling out God's name in ancient Hebrew. So the breath sound is Yahweh, Yahweh. And it can be used in meditation to add a mantra to your breath. So inhaling with the word Yah and exhaling with the word Way, and it becomes a mantra. And it's a very powerful way to meditate and use God's name at the same time. What do you think of that?
That makes sense.
I've used it, and it has helped me a lot. Because sometimes when you're going into contemplation or meditation, there's so much noise upstairs, and that's common. But this is a word and a method where you can surrender your thoughts. And if you start using the Yahweh method, you just kind of let it dissipate into nothingness where you don't have to actually think or say the words anymore. And then use that word to bring yourself back when you get distracted. So that's what I've been doing for a while, and it's very effective. But of course, everybody has their own mantras, and everybody uses different words to sweep away the thoughts and to come back to focus on God. So I just wanted to share that because I was reading about it this week, and it really gave me a lot of inspiration. And that's the type of stuff I do before I write the poetry usually. When I get the locutions or poems, it's usually during meditation. It's always during asking God for some more information if he has anything. And a meditation and sitting in silence is an excellent way to improve your communication with God. So, do you have any comments on that, Tom?
No, I like the idea that you're using God's name, like you say, for the mantra.
And I think I'd like to move right into what I think God said to me one night when I was using this method.
Okay.
And this I received a couple of months ago. And I think this is what God says to us every time we get our own thoughts out of the way. My beloved child, mighty is my love for you, full of mercy, hope, and grace. Before the dawn of time, I knew you. Your voice is music to my ears. When I gaze upon you, I see myself. Everything you do pleases me immensely. I call to you. I thirst for you. I bleed for you. I die for you. I feel your pains. I share your gains. I'm here for you, now and forever. Nothing can separate us except your will. Please accept me. Please don't leave me. So that's the first locution I'd like to start with tonight. We've gone over this once before, but I think it's powerful after talking about that Yahweh meditation and linking the two together to what type of communications you can receive from God when you get yourself out of the way and sit in silence.
Sounds very similar to something that he would say to St. Faustina.
Right, it sounds like something right out of her book, right?
Yes.
When Christ was speaking. Well, you know, that's one of the books I read, I think in 2009, or even before. I was very taken by that book by St. Faustina and all the things that Christ said. It's like you're actually listening to him when you're reading that book. Everything's in boldface in the book that she has Christ talking to her during that book.
Yes.
And it's very powerful.
St. Faustina's diary.
Yeah. She's one of the saints I petition to every day. One of my favorite saints. Her and St. Therese, the Little Flower. The two female saints that I really feel close to.
One of my favorites from the diary is, and I use it quite a bit, is Jesus said to St. Faustina, I am making myself, Jesus, he's saying, I am making myself, Jesus, dependent on your trust. He's saying he's making himself dependent on her trust.
Mm-hmm.
So that if her trust is great, he says, my generosity will be unlimited. That's a bargain.
That's it. All we have to do is trust him and we can have anything that we need.
Right.
Not everything we want, but everything we need. And he's the only one that knows what we need, basically. You know, so frequently during the day I say, thy will, not mine, be done, because I know if I ask him to do his will and not mine and to get my will out of the way, it'll be like I'm in heaven on earth, because he would never have me do anything harmful to me or to anybody. It's so hard to know what his will is, though, right?
Yes, it's... But that's why I pray what I pray with indifference. And this weekend we did a study on Chesterton. He was let's see, when did he get started? I think in the 1800s, but he was still around in the 40s, if I'm not mistaken, over in England. And he had something in his writings when we were studying his writings that I learned about 30 years ago. And I'm using it now. I mean, it's obvious that see, I have been diagnosed with lymphoma, which is cancer.
Yep.
And I'm starting my chemo tomorrow. But he talks about, he says to understand Chesterton is to become familiar with the concept of paradox. In his book Orthodoxy, Chesterton constantly makes statements that seem contradictory or run counter to our expectations. However, there is a scriptural precedent for paradox. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first. The humble shall be exalted. Blessed are the poor. A virgin shall give birth. The dead shall rise. These are all familiar biblical paradoxes. However, when Chesterton tells us that the madman is not the man who has lost his reason, but the man who has lost everything except his reason, we are surprised. Likewise, we are surprised that Chesterton found his way to Christianity not by studying the defenses of it, but rather the attacks on it. He saw that most modern philosophies lead not only to madness, but to self-destructive madness, as they get stuck on one idea that may seem reasonable, but is inadequate to explain the whole truth of things. Now, here's my part. Paradox also includes the idea of two truths that appear to contradict each other and yet are both true. Chesterton used the example of courage, which is and this is the key sentence, a strong willingness to live accompanied by a readiness to die. In other words, he that lays down his life will gain it, from Luke 17:33. Truth is a balancing act of apparently contradictory ideas, and the only thing that has maintained that balance throughout history is the church as the body of Christ. Now, I have this cancer, and like the paradox says, I have a strong willingness to live, so I want to be healed. But this is accompanied by the readiness to die. So it's a win-win situation. You see what I mean?
Yes. Life is good and bad, not good. Life is good and bad, not good or bad. That's paradox, too.
That's right.
It's the difference between dualistic thinking and non-dualistic thinking. The idea that everything is good or bad is not good, but the idea that everything is good and bad, that we're constantly living and dying at the same time.
Right.
Cells are being regenerated in our body constantly, and cells are dying in our body constantly. Just like the trees that lose their leaves. That's happening within us as we speak now.
Very good. So, but I learned that about 30 years ago when I had a problem when I was doing my hockey broadcasting. I lost my contract for 19 years. After 19 years, and the station that got the contract gave it up after a year, so they asked for bids again. So I made a bid, and I said, Lord, I want to continue doing the hockey. So, that's the desire of my heart, because it's good for my radio station. And on the other hand, if I'm over here with my desire of my heart, and you're over on the other side, I want to be with you. So my heart desire is to have hockey, but if you've got another plan, I want to be over there.
Right.
And that's the paradox. So it was interesting to see it in writing, like last weekend when we were doing the study on Chesterton.
Chesterton, I enjoyed watching him on EWTN. His show was great. The Chesterton philosophy is great, I mean.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought this was a good place to stick that in.
Yeah, it is. And cancer is just very rapid, abnormally rapid division of cells. Is what I've heard about it. So, I guess our whole life is just a series of surrenders and a series of non-surrenders. You know, there's some things we have to not do, and there's other things we have to surrender to, and it all comes down to will again, you know. And the paradox there is we always pray to do God's will, but in fact we always are doing God's will is always achieved no matter what, correct? So that's kind of a paradox too, isn't it? Nothing happens without God's will being achieved. Is that correct?
Right.
So then, on the other hand, we keep trying to figure out what he wants. So I'm leading into this because when we were talking before, I just saw a prayer that I wrote, or a locution that I got on October 23rd of 2014, and it's about discernment of will.
Let me tell you, before you get into that, let me tell you what Thomas Merton said. He has a poem or a song or a prayer, and he said, I really want to do the will of God, okay? I really desire to do the will of God. But I don't always do the will of God. But the fact that I desire to do the will of God pleases God.
I like that one.
Like that.
Yeah.
Because we don't know.
I enjoyed his book of poetry.
Like of the will of God. What is the will of God?
Yeah.
But we want to do it, right? That's the main thing.
That's like St. Therese. You know, she used to crawl to the foot of the stairs, and she knew she couldn't climb up the stairs, but she knew that her father would carry her up if she kept climbing to the foot of the stairs, that he would bring her the rest of the way.
Yeah, that's good.
That was her analogy for getting to God as her father.
Okay,
she knew she couldn't get there on her own, but she knew if she kept going to the bottom of the stairs, he'd carry her up.
That's beautiful.
Her little way, yeah.
Okay, so you were starting to say?
I just saw this. You know, we were talking about will, and this is in my list of locutions. Show me your will prayer, October 23rd, 2014. I haven't seen it in a while. Because usually when I re-look at these, the date changes, but this is an old one I haven't looked at for a while, so we haven't heard this yet, I don't think. It's called the Show Me Your Will prayer. Excuse me, I have a little cold. Now is the time, this is the hour, the moment, the day that he has made. Take up his cross and spread the good word that he is Lord today. O Holy Spirit, beloved of my soul, I adore you. Enlighten me. Guide me, strengthen me, console me. Tell me what I should do. Give me your orders. I promise to submit myself to all that you desire of me, and to accept all that you permit to happen to me. Let me only know your will.
That's a beautiful prayer.
Yeah, that's a prayer I wrote in October 23rd of 2014, so that's 3 years old.
That's very much like Therese. That's something that she would say.
There's something else I have about will. It's October 23rd. I must have had a good day, October 23rd, 2014. I can't believe in God. I can't believe in God if I can't believe in myself. Therefore, I believe in nothing, and nothing my false self, was my problem. I was wired in reverse because I didn't believe in a higher power. God was nothing, and so was I. So I drank nothing to death. It didn't matter to the person I had become. There were no consequences. Now I believe in God. I'm a part of that God, and that God is a part of me, not apart from me. Thanks to my spirituality, I communicate with that God every day, and at times I'm in constant conscious contact with Him. And I have found that listening to my God means listening to other people and myself in that order. And I take all the thoughts I need and leave the rest, because resentments, mine and other people's, are like stray cats. If I don't feed them, they will go away.
That's right.
One of the most horrible things to do is to take a negative thought and make it pregnant so you can't move it. And the whole philosophy between 12-step work and spirituality is to stay focused on what's positive in life. And if you're staying focused on what's positive, you're staying focused on God. If you're staying focused on what's negative, that's not God.
Someone has said that that Satan, the enemy, is chained up like a dog.
Mm-hmm.
And the chain's only so long. And the key is that you don't want to go within the length of that chain. You just stay out of that territory. It's kind of like the saying you said, that you don't feed those negative thoughts.
Right.
You let them go.
I also heard another thing about chains and Satan. Satan's like a dog on a chain. You're okay if you don't pet him.
If you don't pet him, yeah, well, that's the same thing. Yeah, you don't get in his territory.
Right.
You don't get anywhere near him.
It's like a chained dog can't bite you unless you go over and pet him, you know?
So if you're a recovering alcoholic, you stay away from where the stuff is, right?
Right.
Does that work then?
He hands out all the negative thoughts, and the other thoughts don't come from him, you know? So
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah,
never
we
know,
don't
though, right?
Negative thoughts. We start out each day with passion for the Lord Jesus. We're on fire. We have power. We have the same power that raised Jesus from the dead coursing through our veins.
That's why it's important for me, though, to start every day on my knees below his crucifix, turning my will and my life over to him when I wake up and asking him to keep it that way all day, because we have a tendency to take our own will back during the day. And sometimes we have to get on our knees more than once, at least I do, because
Interesting.
if the day starts going bad, we got to get back down on the knees and start it over again, you know?
Interesting story. And, you know, I used to broadcast Division I college hockey. And I was riding on the plane to a game to broadcast. And I was sitting with one of the players. And he told me that his grandmother told him that every night when you go to bed, you put your shoes under the bed, okay? So in the morning, when you're looking for your shoes, you have to get down on your knees. And that will remind you that it's time to pray.
That's a good one.
Isn't that a good one?
Yep, very good.
I mean, it's surprising it came from this hockey player.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't forget those things.
No, they're gems.
Yeah.
They're little golden pieces of your life that you never forget.
Mhm. So you've written some great things there, Joe.
Yeah, when I read them again, I don't even remember writing them most of the time. So it must be the Spirit a lot,
Yeah, it was 08. Yep.
Did I share that riddle with you about how it is to get close to God?
I'm not sure, but it's good to hear these things again anyway.
Yeah,
They bear
I
repeating.
just shared it with somebody. It's like a riddle almost.
So let's hear it.
I have to find it. Just a second.
Okay.
I think I'd like to do this one first. It's called Come.
There's a song like that.
Yeah, it's called Come, Fear No More, because fear is the enemy.
Oh, come here no more. Oh, that
Come,
sounds
fear
good.
no more. My love is here. My time has come. My ways will save. My wounds will heal. My light will shine. Listen and learn, act and be saved. Now is the time. Here is the daylight. No more is the pain. No more is the grief. My mercy endures. My love overcomes. My tears wash your souls. My eyes see your needs. Surrender today. Give me your all. Answer the call. No deed is too small. I love you all. Follow the light. The dark will fall.
A good one. How far back does that one go?
Now, that's back in 2007 or 2008.
Mm-hmm. And you've shared these with quite a few people, right?
Yeah. Every retreat I go to. The two of the songs I wrote, I actually shared at the Divine Mercy Chapel with a busload of people from Canada, and people were crying.
Oh, yeah.
With tears, yeah. It was amazing. I just asked the bus leader if they would like to hear some of the poems I'd written, and they said yes. Come. And I was talking to one person from Canada, and it wound up being a person on the bus with 60 people with them. And they said, come talk to us all. Share it with us, all of us.
Oh,
So they were on
bus.
a field trip. Field trip from Canada to the Divine Mercy. They were when I shared with them. That's the type of thing that happens to me. I get in a situation where I think I should share. I talk to one person, or I'm on a retreat, and like I talked to Immaculate, and she wound up asking me to share with the whole group of 300 people. It's amazing how God works. How He puts you in places where you can be of maximum value to His cause. It's just amazing how He moves you. I think I shared with you how I wound up down in New York City at Immaculate's retreat right after seeing the shrine to the little kid who was killed in Newtown at West Beach in Stanford. I wasn't even still down there. So, that's what I call spirit-driven. And I have a little poem on spirit-driven that describes the feeling, I think.
Okay.
It's like spirit-driven. Light, energy, pulsating waves of the joy of creation, made by a sweep of the divine hand of the Father's love, lifted from the wind-blown dust of cosmic time, filtered by the reason of a cosmic event beyond our comprehension, molded into shapes with beckoning eyes that gaze in awe at the Master's work, wandering aimlessly through the portals of time in search of the Father's will, never finding, always seeking the meaning of life. In other words, go wherever the wind blows you, you know. In most cases, that'll get you where God wants you to be, because Spirit is wind. And, of course, when you're in the wind, you wind up being on fire, right?
That's right, and the Spirit blows and goes wherever He wants. I had something last night that I wanted to share with you. If I can find it, I think he sent it out yesterday, so it's about how do we know what's going to happen when we get to heaven?
Mm.
And this doctor had a beautiful description of that. Let's see, yesterday. Here it is. It's death, a wonderful way to explain it. A sick man turned to his doctor as he was preparing to leave the examination room and said, "Doctor, I'm afraid to die. Tell me what lies on the other side." Very quietly, the doctor said, "You don't know? You're a Christian man and you don't know what's on the other side." The doctor was holding the handle of the door. On the other side came a sound of scratching and whining. And as he opened the door, a dog sprang into the room and leaped on him with an eager show of gladness. Turning to the patient, the doctor said, "Did you notice my dog? He's never been in this room before. He didn't know what was inside. He knew nothing except that his master was here, and when the door opened, he sprang in without fear. I know little of what is on the other side of death, but I do know one thing. I know that my master is there, and that's enough." How about that for a good story? Are you still there, Joe? What happened? I wonder if he realized he got cut off there, I think. You back, Joe? Hello, Joe.
Yep, I've had technical issues. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Did you hear that? Did you hear that story then?
Yes, part of it, not all of it, though. I got disconnected here.
Let me repeat it because it's worth repeating. Because the first couple of times the man who told me this, I couldn't remember all the details, so I'll go through it slowly.
Okay.
It's called Death, a wonderful way to explain it. Man turned to his doctor as he was preparing to leave the examination room, and he said, "Doctor, I'm afraid to die. Tell me what lies on the other side." Very quietly, the doctor said, "You don't know? you're a Christian man and you don't know what's on the other side? Did you hear those parts before?
Yeah.
The doctor was holding the handle of the door, and on the other side came a sound of scratching and whining. And as he opened the door, a dog sprang into the room and leaped on him with an eager show of gladness. Turning to the patient, the doctor said, "Did you notice my dog? He's never been in this room before. He didn't know what was inside. He knew nothing except that his master was here, and when the door opened, he sprang in without fear."
Yeah.
I know little of what is on the other side of death, but I do know one thing. I know my master is there, and that's enough.
That is enough. If people could only believe, have enough faith to believe that, there'd be no fear left in the world. Yeah.
Isn't that a great story?
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Some people have this fear of God, I think that even, I heard it said that the real term for fear should be awe, A-W-E.
That's right. People misunderstand it. They misunderstand that, the fear of God.
Yeah, it should be awe of God, awe of His,
right.
awe of His mercy, awe of His love, awe of His friendship.
Show respect.
Awe that He came down here and died for us.
You listen to
so
what He
says. So that we could
says.
live with Him forever.
Right. And
I have this
locution.
This locution called tribal conquistadors.
I haven't heard that.
This is what you get when you stop being afraid of God. This is what this describes, I think. You become tribal conquistadors, spiritual conquistadors. My friends in the Spirit have something much bigger than anything the world can bring them. They hang out in tribes and share their experiences in life. God is life. God takes our darkness and makes it light on us and all those around us. We call this grace. It allows us to face and walk through fear and pain, to live each day like it's our last, to love without conditions, to speak kindly and without fear, to surrender quickly and to forgive immediately those who harm us, to walk a steady beam without worry of falling or failing, to get out of our own way and let God's light shine through us, even while in distress, to love and serve each other, being the eyes and hands of our co-creator, to share God's pain and joy by relentlessly accepting the struggle we call life. One day at a time, anything is possible. Then we learn how to live in the moment where everything is awesome, where love finally triumphs over fear, in a place called the eternal now, a.k.a. heaven on earth.
Now, how did you handle this forgiveness as you were on your journey?
At first, I had trouble forgiving anybody else, but more difficult was forgiving myself after I forgave everybody else, because I had this horrible feeling that I was unforgiving and that I could not be forgiven. And that's false pride. That's believing that God isn't powerful enough to forgive me. So false pride was the last obstacle I had to overcome in my recovery.
And you did it.
That feeling that God isn't powerful enough to forgive you is fatal. He'll forgive anybody. He died to forgive people. And I thought He couldn't forgive me. And that was my last surrender, when I started loving myself after that. I couldn't love myself until I forgave myself. And it was a long, hard journey for me. It took 7 years in a 12-step work to accomplish that.
Wow.
And it happened a year after I came off all medications. And I came off all medications after I forgave my father. Because until I forgave my earthly father, I couldn't have a relationship with my Heavenly Father. And they told me that at the Unbound conference in Orlando, Florida, Neil Lenzano's group, when they prayed over me. And after I forgave my father, I was slain in the spirit by 3 people. For over 20 minutes I laid on the floor in bliss. And it was a month later that I came off all medications. You can't do anything with your life until you have forgiven others and yourself. Others first, then yourself, I think. That's the way my program worked anyway. But forgiveness is so powerful. He's just waiting to forgive people.
Some people say, when they make a mistake, how could I have been so stupid? Instead of realizing that, that it's all up to God, that once you're forgiven, once you go to confession and you're forgiven, who are you to argue with God? He's saying, I forgive you. And you're saying, well, he didn't forgive me, or what I did was so bad, he can't forgive that. And that's another pride thing, too, see?
Oh, yeah. The hardest people to forgive are the ones that's more important to forgive. When you got that person in your life that you swore you'd never forgive, that's burning you up inside. It's like a hot coal in your heart. And when you reach out and forgive that person who you swore you would never forgive. And the other thing is, when you go to confession and you tell that secret that you swore you'd never tell anybody, that's when you get healed.
Yeah.
Because until all the secrets are in the light, nothing good can happen.
I heard something very good last Thursday. Mary Schwartz has a program called Living Waters on Thursdays at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And she had this woman from Maine who spent 11 years with Saint Mother Teresa in India.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Mother Teresa.
And I don't know if she got this from her, but she got it somewhere. And this isn't forgiveness, but it's kind of like a start. Like if you have someone that you can't stand, that someone is just so irritating, just drives you nuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says what you should start with is you should smile at them 5 times a day.
Excuse me.
When you see them, if you see them in the morning, smile. If you see them in the mid-morning, smile. If you see them at noon, you smile. You have to smile 5 times a day at this person.
Mm-hmm.
Even if he's not there, you can be thinking about him and smile. Isn't that good?
That is good.
That's
Mother Teresa had a paste-on smile no matter what she felt like inside. You remember that?
Yeah.
She was always smiling. Every time she appeared, she was smiling. And she was suffering terribly most of the time with illness, And it's so important. Yeah, it's so important to stay positive, isn't it? Yeah. It's no wonder she was made a saint in a hurry, right?
That's for sure.
She left the safety of a convent she could have stayed in all of her life because she looked out the window and saw people suffering and wanted to go out and help. And she had to get permission from the Pope to do her ministry. And the nun in charge gave her permission to talk to the Pope about it. That's the difference between thinking you want to do something and actually getting out and doing it. Being with the hungry, with the poor, with the sick. That's the only way to truly become humble. To help the poor and the needy, not just talk about it.
Right.
It takes acts of faith, not just thoughts of faith.
somebody sent me an email yesterday, talking about smiling, and it's good to be happy. We should always be praising the Lord, and we should always be uplifted, even when things are bad.
Yep.
The joy of the Lord is my strength, right?
Excuse me, Bob. I have a little cold.
This is a funny story that he sent me. So maybe we need a little humor right here.
Who's this from, Bob?
This came from a friend of mine.
Oh, good.
Let's see if I can find it. Where are you? It's not there. It's got to be here. I just shared it yesterday. I don't know. I guess maybe I can't find it tonight. Wait a while. No, maybe not. Let me try one more thing here. Nope, I guess I won't have it. I'll have to share it with you next time.
Okay.
But it was a very good story about it. It was about church and everything, but it had a good twist to it. But so I'll share it with you next time.
Great.
So we have about I would say about 15 more minutes.
I think maybe I'll do a locution I believe is Christ, and then one that I believe is Mary. And this is called the Spirit of Christ, and I believe he said this to me. We are one. There is no separation. I am in you. You are in me. We are one. Unity has overcome. Some just don't accept that. Your experiences are my experiences. Your love is my love. Your failures are my failures. Your life is my life. Your words are my words. Your sorrows are my sorrows. And when your will is my will, you're in heaven already. Heaven is a state of mind, not a location. You are part of me. Only your mind can pretend that's not true because of my gift of free will.
Very good.
There are really times when, since I've had my awakening, I feel like I'm in heaven already, and I'm sure you've experienced that too, right, Bob?
Well, what I always think about is that, if once we have this relationship with Jesus, it kind of becomes, it's heaven all the way to heaven.
Gotcha.
I was sitting in adoration one day, and just out of the blue, I had the sense the Lord was saying to me, there's nothing to get excited about because you're just going to change addresses.
Uh-huh.
I was there meditating and contemplating and before the Blessed Sacrament, and the Lord said, this is what you're going to be doing in heaven too. It's just going to move.
Yeah, I agree, and it's going to be a journey continued. I'm sure there's different levels of bliss in heaven.
Yeah.
I think.
Just
like we have good and bad things happening down here, but there's going to be different levels of joy and bliss up there.
Exactly.
We're probably going to have to work, I think. We're going to have to work to help other people when we get up there, I think.
I don't know.
Look at St. Therese. She said, I want to go back down and help the people on earth, and she sends roses to people. She told God she wanted to be able to help the people on earth when she died, and she's still doing that. St. Therese, a little flower, right?
Well,
she asked Christ if she could do that.
We know that we're going to still be doing a lot of prayer, probably be more prayer when we get to heaven.
Well, it'd be great to actually be with him when we're praying, you know?
Yeah.
Be kind of like when Adam and Eve were still in the garden with God, walking with him, right?
Mm-hmm. So
here's one from Our Lady, if you're ready. I think this is the most powerful one I ever got from Our Lady. And this is one I've shown to Immaculate. This is one I read down in New York City. She asked me to share it with 300 people who were at her retreat when I read it to her, because she was sharing miracles at the end, because Our Lady of Cabello appeared last year and said she desired that her children share their miracles. That's what she told the visionaries in Cabello last year. So Immaculate said, Joe, this is definitely from Our Lady. Please read it to my retreat. So I did. And this is exactly the words that I shared. It's called Lady of Wisdom. I wish to make you know how much you are loved. My eyes can see the contents of your heart. I gaze upon my children all the time, and I know their every need. My grace is sufficient to care for all your needs. I will never abandon the children I received at the foot of my Son's cross. You must stop looking to the world for consolation, for it gives none. Take shelter in the wounds of my Son, and bask under the protection of my mantle. Be grateful at all times for my Son's suffering and your own. Be powers of example by imitating my Son and letting his light shine through you, even while in distress. When you are sinned against, remember my Son's words on the cross. Forgive them, Father. They know not what they do. When you are tested, pray. When you see a friend in need, respond with love and service, not just words. When you are persecuted, respond with an attitude of gratitude, and my Son's grace will lead you home.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to beat that.
She's some mother. She wants to be a mother to all of us. All we have to do is ask her. All somebody has to do is ask her to be their mother, and she'll shower them with blessings. Right?
Right. There's a man that I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago. He's written a book called Mary the Beloved. His name is Keith Barabee. And the book is Mary the Beloved. And what I want you to do is, you don't have the book, but he talks about these women in the Old Testament. And as you go back and look at Rebecca and see, read the scriptures concerning Rebecca, Rachel, and Judith, and Esther. And as you read those things, you think of Mary. And they were kind of forerunners,
Excuse me.
And when you read the Song of Songs, and a bridegroom, and then as you're reading through the Song of Songs, some people call it the Canticle of Canticles, and think about Mary. And it's almost like they're talking about Mary.
In the Song of Songs, right?
They probably are.
Yep.
And then think of chapter 31 in Proverbs.
Proverbs, yeah.
Chapter 31. It's all about a woman. And I know a couple of times I sent this to my wife, on Mother's Day. But as you go through that, you'll see that all these things are about Mary. So try that when you get a chance. Go into the
I like the Song of Songs. I've read that before.
And think about how it's actually describing Mary.
Excuse me.
I never looked at it that way before. See what you get.
Okay.
Judith.
I always get a lot of peace. I get a lot of peace just thinking about Mary, even when we do the rosary in the morning,
Yeah.
It's like when you do the rosary, you can feel her presence in your life.
Oh, yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah. So what do you think of what's going on in the world these days? Kind of crazy, huh? Because I have a little prophecy on that, I think. But now they're talking about a Russian spy ship off the coast and stuff. Things are really getting a little bit crazy.
I heard that I didn't know if that was true or not.
Yeah, it was. They had a picture of it.
Wow.
It's testing. After every presidential election, there's some type of testing. But it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I wonder what that was all about.
So I think I shared this before, and I think it's a little prophecy. I was at Curly's Diner, and it was my parents' wedding anniversary. And I was sitting there, and I asked if you have anything for me. And this came out. It's called The Dawn of Time. And I think it could be from Our Lady, and I think it could be a warning. What do you think with what's going on right now even? So this is what I heard on July 5th of this year, last year. It's called The Dawn of Time. Flying high the wicked waves of the world, destroying all on impact. While innocence crashes, evil smiles, and justice frowns. Liberty and justice for all has become liberty or justice. For none, pick your poison. Peace smiles at chaos, knowing it will eventually prevail. For all is necessary for the human condition, and both evil and good seasons all for eternal bliss. As the moon bleeds sorrow and the earth quakes, the hands of time strikes midnight as the sun awaits a new dawn. Will mankind awake or continue its self-induced coma? Only time will tell a soul. Then peace and justice will prevail.
That was how long ago was that?
July 5th of last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that says a lot. Well, I think we're off to a good start. We're bringing back God into our nation.
Yep.
We're off to a good start, but it's not going to be easy.
I was thinking made in His image and likeness, right? When we look at another person, we have to see the image of God. But some people take a lot longer than others in developing the likeness of God. And that's the spiritual journey. We're all in His image, but we have to work to become in His likeness, Mm-hmm. Imitation. We have to imitate to become like Him. So I want to share this because this is on the positive side. I don't remember when I wrote this, but I think it's pretty pertinent. We are one holy family. We are one. Son, mother, and the other one. Mother Earth, sister sun, and the moon. Blood of Christ, seed of wisdom, and the womb. Holy, 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 three in one. Love, peace, and justice all in one. Forgiveness leads to peace for every one. Forgiveness leads to peace for every one. Come into His presence, see His face. Come into His presence, every one. Then you'll know the secret of the Son. He'll hide you in His wounds until He comes. He'll be with you forever when He comes. You'll soon be saints in heaven with the Son. You'll be at peace forever in the Son. Forever in the light, all will be one.
That's right. That's the only answer to our country.
Yeah. And to me, this locution was like a combination of Franciscan philosophy and current philosophy, you know. It's like a mixture, I think, of like St. Francis might say something like this, you know.
Well,
I remember I shared with you, he used to stay in a cave for an hour at a time just saying, who are you and who are me, you know, and I think at the end of it all he realized there's no real difference. We're all just like Christ if we let ourselves be, you know.
right.
If we imitate him and if we work hard at trying to be like him, that's acts of faith. Philosophy can only get you so far. You have to actually do the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping others.
I think we're at the end, Joe.
Okay, Bob. Well, I wish you. I'll pray for you for tomorrow. I hope everything goes well for you.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to it. The way I look at it, I've got 6 hours to sit there to receive that chemo, and I'm just going to kind of cuddle up with Jesus and see what happens.
Like that picture of him carrying the lamb, Bob.
Yeah, exactly.
I image that a lot when I'm having difficulties.
Really?
Even when I'm having difficulties, he's holding me like he holds that lamb.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much he loves us.
So, Joe, we'll be back with Cry Oneness next week. Same time, same station. In the meantime, may God bless each and every one of you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Good to be with you, Joe.
Same here, Bob. Take care.
See you next week.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the program and will join us back for another show on WCAT Radio. This is Sebastian Mahfood. Good day.